On the morning of March 12, 2025, the world was stunned as major news outlets reported a shocking development. Mike Wolfe, the well-known host of the reality TV series American Pickers, had been sentenced to life in prison. The charges were astonishing and read like the plot of a high-stakes thriller, smuggling priceless artifacts across international borders, concealing evidence tied to the death of a prominent historian, and manipulating the high-value antique auction market. For millions of viewers, Mike had always appeared as the enthusiastic, down-to-earth collector traversing the country in search of forgotten historical treasures. But after a 46-day trial, a much darker portrait emerged, one of a calculated figure with deep connections to illegal smuggling networks stretching across the Middle East and Europe. The investigation first gained momentum on June 17, 2023, when Bloomington, Indiana police responded to a call about a foul odor coming from the basement of Professor Harold Clemens's home. Clemens, a retired historian formerly with the University of Chicago and an expert in Civil War-era relics, was found dead on his back. In his right hand, he clutched a silver pocket watch inscribed with the words, RK-187 for honor not glory. Initially, it looked like the natural death of an elderly man living alone. However, the pocket watch quickly became the focal point of a much larger mystery. Just 1 week later, a leaked internal memo from the Savannah National Museum revealed that the watch had been part of a collection that had gone missing in 2019, a disappearance that had never been publicly disclosed. The museum had opted to keep quiet about the loss, fearing public scandal, until the artifact resurfaced in such an unexpected and grim context. The discovery ignited a storm on social media, but the real twist came from an anonymous Reddit post. A user going by GearGhost82 claimed in an antiques forum that they had seen that exact pocket watch in an unaired episode of American Pickers during a visit Mike made to a farm in Kentucky. According to the post, Mike even remarked, "This watch tells stories." Within 2 days, dozens of users chimed in, saying they too had seen the watch either in that episode or in a clip that had since been removed from YouTube in 2021. Others alleged it had been on display at Mike's Nashville store, Antique Archaeology. In July 2023, the FBI launched a discreet investigation in partnership with the International Antiquities Trafficking Task Force. The operation, codenamed Rust Rail, aimed to determine if Wolfe had been part of a larger scheme trafficking illegal artifacts both domestically and internationally. One of the early breakthroughs came from a leaked History Channel video, capturing Mike in the midst of a transaction inside a warehouse near Paducah, Kentucky. In the 14-minute clip, he is heard saying, "I know this piece went through the hands of an officer. It definitely has historical value. I won't ask where you got it." This statement raised immediate suspicions. Further complicating matters was Mike's prior connection to Harold Clemens. In 2017, the professor had appeared briefly at a televised symposium focused on historical objects, where he made an ominous comment, "Some artifacts should never be for sale. They carry pain no amount of money can buy." After Clemens's death, investigators found an email on his computer addressed to a close friend. In it, he wrote, "I believe I've uncovered a chain of illicit transactions originating from a well-known television figure. I'm debating whether to alert the federal authorities." The message was sent just 3 days before his death. While no clear evidence of foul play was found, the coroner's report did reveal a small bruise on the back of Clemens's head, possibly from a fall or blow before he lost consciousness. Though no one was charged in connection with his death, the investigation shifted direction. Mike Wolfe came under federal surveillance, and the pocket watch, once just an eerie clue, became the spark that ignited a full-scale takedown of an antique empire. As the Rust Rail investigation ramped up, agents began scouring unaired episodes of American Pickers and requested internal records from the show's production team and the History Channel. What they uncovered was alarming. Between 2020 and 2023, more than 40 items bought by Mike and his team never appeared on the show. While a few had basic receipts, there was no trace of where the items ended up. Among them was the infamous pocket watch. The federal task force suspected many of these missing items were hidden in warehouses, basements, or trafficked through illegal markets. Because they couldn't initially confront Mike directly, investigators monitored one of his close aides, Craig Salinas, who worked as a driver and transport handler. During a 6-hour surveillance operation in southern Missouri, Salinas was observed driving a van marked Antique Archaeology to a seemingly abandoned warehouse not listed on any production schedule. Assisted by undercover local officers posing as building inspectors, authorities entered the building and found multiple sealed crates containing 18th and 19th century artifacts. At least 3 of the items matched descriptions of pieces stolen from a museum in Georgia. The case escalated further when search warrants were issued for 2 private storage facilities registered under a company named Time Vault Logistics LLC. This company, investigators discovered, was a shell entity in which Mike held shares through a network of intermediaries. At one Ohio warehouse, agents discovered a trove of undocumented antiques, including Civil War-era revolvers, rare manuscripts, and a nearly 1-meter-tall Egyptian deity statue stored in a shockproof container. Internal reports later confirmed the statue matched one stolen from Egypt's Luxor Museum in 2011. Following the financial trail, the FBI uncovered that Mike Wolfe was linked to at least 5 companies based in offshore tax havens such as Malta and the Cayman Islands. Between 2016 and 2023, nearly $4.7 million had been transferred among these companies through antique-related dealings, none of which involved licensed appraisers or legitimate auction houses. Most stunning of all, records showed that a Swiss bank account under Mike's name had received a $150,000 wire transfer from an individual tied to the underground antiquities market in Aleppo, Syria, a location long suspected of trafficking looted cultural artifacts during wartime. What shocked investigators the most was the remarkable way Mike orchestrated the entire operation. No official member of his team handled the transportation of goods after filming. Instead, everything was outsourced to third-party contractors. Agreements were finalized using virtual fax applications, and payments were made exclusively in cash or cryptocurrency. The person coordinating logistics was a man of Eastern European origin, known only by the alias Mayan in Mike's communications. His true identity remains a mystery. In November 2023, the FBI launched a covert effort to penetrate the network. Their investigation led them to an antique store in New Mexico that Mike had previously visited. On the night of December 3rd, an undercover agent met Mike in an unofficial encounter. During that meeting, which was later leaked during the trial, Mike was recorded saying, "Not every item should be on TV. Some things are meant for those who truly understand their value, not the audience." Soon after, the FBI conducted urgent searches at 3 locations linked to antique archaeology, including a hidden warehouse in North Nashville. Inside, they uncovered a coded handwritten document labeled the List 17. It detailed artifact types, black market prices, and transaction dates. They also found Mike's personal notebook containing a penciled note that read, "They will never understand. This is about heritage, not money." But heritage can't be used as an excuse to break the law. The sheer amount of incriminating evidence, from undocumented items and suspicious financial records to written notes about concealment, led to Mike Wolfe being officially named the prime suspect in what was quickly shaping up to be the largest scandal in American reality TV history. Mike's federal trial began on January 9, 2025, in Chicago. Security at the courthouse was intense as reporters and supporters gathered outside. Some held signs that read "Free Mike," believing it was all a misunderstanding. But the courtroom revelation stunned everyone present. The 39-page indictment outlined 6 primary charges: illegal transportation of antiquities, international trafficking of cultural property, tax evasion, obstruction of justice, money laundering, and concealing evidence connected to a suspicious death. The recommended sentence was life imprisonment without parole. Prosecutors presented previously unseen video footage, including clips showing Mike involved in questionable transactions at locations never documented on the show. In one particularly damning scene, Mike was filmed exchanging cash with a Syrian man in a Detroit garage for a box of unverified Roman coins. The prosecution insisted this wasn't about collecting, it was an illegal commercial enterprise hidden behind the camera lens. The turning point came when Frank Fritz, Mike's former co-host from the early days of American Pickers, agreed to testify. His words left the courtroom silent. He stated, "We once vowed to only collect what was legal, but things changed." Mike became obsessed with items no one else had. He told me, to keep the show alive, we had to dig deeper, literally and figuratively. Frank described an incident in 2021 when they acquired a wartime diary in Arkansas. Mike took it and vanished. Weeks later, Frank saw the same diary on the black market, being sold for 15 times its original price. Mike's defense team focused less on the physical evidence and more on painting him as someone trapped in a system beyond his control. They argued that logistics were handled by others and that Mike was merely passionate about antiques, not the mastermind. They claimed the disputed funds were legitimate proceeds from foreign collectors and insisted the Swiss account was a lawful savings vehicle. Throughout the trial, Mike remained largely silent, appearing somber and expressionless. On the 31st day, when given the chance to address the jury, he stood up and said, "I never saw myself as a criminal. I just wanted to save what others had thrown away. If that makes me guilty, I accept it. His words sparked national headlines and polarized public opinion. Some admired his honesty, while others condemned his crimes. Sentencing day came quickly. In just over 4 minutes, the judge delivered the verdict. Citing the overwhelming evidence, the scale of organization, and the international consequences of artifact concealment, the court sentenced Mike Wolfe to life imprisonment without parole. Additionally, all rights related to American Pickers and the antique archaeology brand were revoked. In the gallery, an elderly man wept, a longtime fan of the show, heartbroken by the outcome. Fan pages that once celebrated Mike turned into memorial pages or disappeared altogether. Still, a pressing question lingered: if Mike wasn't working alone, who were the people behind him? The collapse of his empire sent shockwaves through the industry. Just 3 days after the verdict, the History Channel officially canceled American Pickers and scrubbed all related content from its streaming platforms. The show's once-thriving YouTube channel went silent, with videos quietly removed. The antique archaeology website was replaced with a blank page bearing the words, "temporarily suspended." A name once synonymous with American television disappeared overnight, as if it had never existed. The FBI shut down both showroom locations in Iowa and Tennessee, places Mike once called sacred spaces for those passionate about the past. The secret North Nashville warehouse, a key hub for his operation, was handed over to the Heritage Management Bureau. A month-long inventory process revealed hundreds of items with falsified documents and questionable origins. Some were confirmed to be sacred relics from war-torn regions such as Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Among the items was a marble carving believed to have come from an Ottoman royal tomb looted in 2003. The scandal caused the antiquities market to freeze. Prestigious auction houses like Sotheby's and Christie's issued statements announcing reviews of all transactions tied to Mike Wolfe. Deals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars were canceled. Private collectors grew anxious, fearing that items they had bought through Mike could be seized at any moment. Public reaction was deeply divided. Many loyal fans believed Mike had been scapegoated for a much larger, hidden system that linked art, commerce, and politics. Online forums like Reddit and platforms such as X became battlegrounds for debates. Users posted long threads analyzing inconsistencies in the investigation, suggesting that Mike may have stumbled upon information that someone didn't want revealed. One detail in particular fueled public debate: the List 17. The document found in Mike's warehouse, beyond the encoded transactions and artifact symbols, the final page bore a handwritten line, Q7 or 3 VTI. Analysts and conspiracy theorists alike rushed to decode it. Some speculated it referred to a secret organization involved in high-end artifact trafficking, possibly tied to high-ranking religious authorities. A popular theory suggested the line referred to the Vatican, a covert Vatican intelligence entity. Though there was no clear evidence to support it, the presence of this code turned the case into something much more obscure, stretching beyond one man and a television show. Another document released by the forensic investigation team was Mike Wolfe's personal notebook. Among mundane notes like episode 312 cut old truck scene or follow-up with leopard skin collection holder, one page contained a single handwritten sentence: "Not all past should be brought to light." This page was tightly folded and wedged between unrelated sheets, as if Mike had intended for it to be found by accident. At the federal prison in Ontario, where Mike is currently serving his sentence, officials have denied all media access. A former associate, speaking anonymously, revealed that Mike doesn't talk to anyone, eats alone, walks alone, and makes no special requests. It's as if he's accepted his sentence, or perhaps had already seen it coming. In March 2025, during a closed-door hearing, FBI representatives stated that other individuals connected to the case are still under surveillance, implying the investigation is ongoing. One of those unofficially summoned was a former program director at the History Channel, the person once responsible for reviewing cut episodes. No one knows whether certain footage was deleted, edited, or deliberately buried. To understand how it all came to this, we must return to the beginning, before the camera lights, before the $1 million brand. We must go back to where Mike Wolfe started, the man behind the tragedy. Mike Wolfe was born in 1964 in Joliet, Illinois, into a poor working-class family. Raised by a single mother with 2 siblings, they survived on hand-me-downs from neighbors. From a young age, Mike was fascinated by what others discarded. While his friends collected baseball cards, Mike dug through the schoolyard dump, retrieving broken radios, old bikes, anything with gears. His favorite saying during those early years was, "If it's worthless to everyone else, it's even more worth keeping." By 2010, when American Pickers first aired on the History Channel, Mike was already in his 40s, but his excitement over discovering an antique license plate still had the wonder of a child. The show quickly became a phenomenon. Alongside his partner Frank Fritz, Mike traveled thousands of miles across America, scouring garages, barns, and forgotten warehouses to find treasures from the past. He was beloved not just for his knowledge, but for the respect he showed to sellers and the genuine passion he had for each object. But perhaps that passion went too far. Someone who worked with Mike in the early years once said, he didn't just collect objects, he collected control over memory. As the show gained fame, the pressure to maintain high ratings grew. Each item had to outshine the last. And to achieve this, Mike began seeking out places people weren't supposed to go, evidence lockers, black markets, suppliers from war zones. No one knows exactly when Mike crossed the line, but one thing became clear: he was no longer just looking for things no one wanted. He was after things people were afraid to keep. Perhaps in Mike's mind, he was doing the right thing, rescuing fragments of history from being forgotten. But the law doesn't operate on personal ideals. Now, Mike Wolfe is inmate number 42799D54. The name that once stood for American heritage has been erased from all public platforms. But deep down, the question remains, was Mike Wolfe a man who exploited the past for profit, or the last person brave enough to preserve it, regardless of the consequences? Mike Wolfe went from a man who crisscrossed America collecting memories, to a national television icon, and finally, to a convicted felon sentenced to life in prison. His story is a reminder that sometimes the line between passion and wrongdoing is thinner than we think, and that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always find its way back to the light. What do you think about Mike Wolfe's verdict? Was he a victim of the system, or someone who went too far beyond the limits of morality? Let us know your thoughts in the comments after this video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest releases.